Startup Folsom.
So we did this same thing last summer. Summer is usually the slow month where we had just people come in and talk about their favorite AI tools. And from that, I was like, wow, there's probably like 3 tools that I use a lot now since that last session. So I want to invite our esteemed panelists here to share their tools or some of their process in some cases, some of their either tools or AI processes they picked up. So I'll just do a brief introduction, and then they can go deeper because they know each other, they know each other better. We have Dr. Scott Campit, and he's with TorchStack. Nicholas Haystings with SweetSuite, and actually when I first met Nicholas, he was with the Square Root Academy, and they had just won a grant from received a grant from the city of Sacramento, and it's a nonprofit that helps workplace education for kids. Is kind of what I thought it was.
Yeah. So
we'll save it. And then you can talk a little deeper. I just wanted to say that, but that's when I first met Nicholas. And then Reneta, I don't know how to say it. Jenik.
Jenik.
And then
Photogenic.
Reneta Jenik.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's the founder of Foodum, and she's an aspiring comedian. I've been to 2 of her workshops. Or not workshops, showcases.
Actual show.
And she just had one, was it like last
week?
Last week.
It feels like a month ago, but it was just last week.
Yeah, and then, all I could say is that some of her jokes were risque, and then she had her daughter, her husband, and her grandpa, or her father-in-law,
yeah.
And then at the end she would go like, "I'm so sorry, Grandpa." So,
It's very inappropriate.
so we'll just start with so that's my 10,000 foot introduction. So we'll start with you, and if you get to talk about yourself and your company.
for sure, yeah. And hey, I'm Scott, and I'm the founder of TorchStack, which is an AI enablement company. We really help organizations upskill and utilize AI best practices, especially when it comes to serving their own customers and clients. I got my PhD from the University of Michigan way back when. It feels like
Go Blue.
Yeah, go blue. And as I was finishing up, that was when ChatGPT first came up online, and I was like, oh shit. I was working on chemical biology things, and I was like, oh, let's not do that. This is going to blow up. I was using this to write my thesis. So I became a healthcare data scientist working for the federal government, implementing some of their AI solutions that are probably still in development, to be quite honest, and saw how slow that was progressing, right? The adoption of AI, even though they're already building some analytics with it. Ended up working for several startups, both as an early stage employee, as a executive, as well as a founder. Got my ass beat a lot, and decided, I want to do this for myself because I just saw all these orgs struggling with adopting AI. Even today, our clients really, they are really struggling with things like data privacy, governance, guardrails, all the things that you actually need to do AI at scale. And so really that's what we help companies run with. So sorry to make something a little bit even longer, but that's what we do. And I guess I'll hand it over.
Right, Nicholas?
Nice. We got to talk about some things. But hello, everybody. My name is Nicholas Haystings. Local founder, Sacramento native, grew up in South Sacramento, if you all are familiar with the region. Ended up going to Sac State, graduated there with my degree of mechanical engineering, stingers up for those that are also alum. Spent some time in the engineering sector, both private and public sector. Had some fun doing a little bit of machine design, had some fun in the environmental engineering sector, so think renewable energy systems, wastewater treatment plants, et cetera, et cetera. So had some fun with that for a few years before kind of entering entrepreneurship full time. It's been about a decade now, me doing this kind of work. And my work pretty much sits on the intersection of innovation and kind of like community service. My main and oldest child, as I call them, would be Square Root Academy. So Square Root Academy, a nonprofit 501c3, we teach kiddos about engineering from a technical perspective. Also a little bit of workforce development sprinkled in there as well. Then I also have Sweet Fleet, which is my virtual assistant agency. So we really help kind of small business owners, founders, nonprofits scale their work by taking care of kind of their back end, taking care of their marketing, a little bit of bookkeeping, but really leaning into creating custom automations and AI workflows for these folks as well. And then the third arm to this tricycle here, third wheel to this tricycle here is going to be SAC Tech Week. That's one of my newer babies, but really think of it as a decentralized kind of conference in the region, really pretty much just celebrating the innovations within the region. And we created that because I don't know if any of you have been working in the in the technological ecosystem here within the region, but we're very fragmented. So SAC Tech Week is kind of our way to kind of give folks a reason to convene together and to work together and not just meet and have conversations and make papers, but how do we make these conversations actionable? And SAC Tech Week is our first step into doing that. So pleasure to be here with you all. Looking forward to the conversation. If anything stands out, would love to continue the convo.
Congrats on SAC Tech Week. They had Folsom Tech Week.
I know, talk to me. That was very inspiring.
Yeah. Well, count me in. I want to join that.
That's fun.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
it? Do
What
know?
is it?
It's October 19th through the 24th, excuse me. Bunch of partners involved already. Urban Hive, Atrium, Made Studios.
Atrium, Shiro?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shiro. So we got a few venues and all the other things kind of like planned out. Some great events. We have a culminating summit. We have the BYOB, which is Bring Your Own Beamer, which is a projection mapping experience.
Bring your own beans?
Beamer.
Beamer,
like projection mapping.
Oh, yeah. I can bring my beans.
If we can make it about tech, then maybe, yeah. But I'm going to stop running my mouth. I'll talk more about SAC Tech a little later.
No worries. Hi, everyone. I'm Reneta, and I'm more of like the founder that builds a platform here. I think you guys help other businesses. I also help other businesses, but let me just a quick brief story about like my background. So I was born in Ukraine, and my family were political immigrants. We moved to Israel when I was 3 years old. And then about 17 years ago, I moved here. Very different immigration than my parents. My parents with me versus me and my child. So I'm lucky to be in a free world where I don't need to run away from another country. But I'm basically a three-time immigrant. I also immigrated here from the Bay Area, so I have a Bay Area accent. And yeah, sound good. And so my degree, I studied social sciences in first degree. After doing some internship in the kids closed department with schizophrenia and other mental conditions, I decided it's just too much for me, and I switched to business. And then I joined Semiconductor World and moved here to the US with SanDisk, if you guys heard about the company. So I was with them for 7 years, and then I was snatched from one semiconductor company to another, and the last one was Intel. So I was director of AI machine learning in the product team. I also managed their solid-state drives for data center product team, so I managed a group of engineers there too. And then I got the itch, the startup bug hit me in the head, and I couldn't go to sleep. I just had to do it. And I made a lot of money back then, and my boss is like, "Are you nuts? What's wrong with you? You're managing AI and just the technology, everything was just coming out." And I took a leave of absence and to start working on my startup and Foodum. And I'll tell you, like in a very short way, I just had to build Foodum first of all because I hate cooking, and I wanted to have more than one chef. So I have now like 100 chefs at my reach. So basically, my daughter says, "Yeah, I didn't want to cook, so you build a platform, so you will never have to cook again." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good example for my daughter, right?" A 20-year-old, just be resourceful. You build a company if you want something. It's, growing up with entrepreneurs, her dad is also an entrepreneur. So what we're doing at Foodum, it all started with me just not wanting to cook, but it turned out to be a platform where we connect chefs and families for healthy food that is prepared for them at home. So they can focus on their life, and then a chef will prepare all the food for them for the whole week. And I got it all the way to getting actually a contract with Anthem Blue Cross to pay for the services. So basically Anthem is paying for chef services for medical patients, which is insane, never heard of before. So it's like, you know, you guys, Anthem will not pay that for you, but if you were, probably you guys are not under medical, but basically underserved communities here can get a chef for their home, and it's paid through Anthem. So that was like the peak. This thing also almost killed our startup, and because it's very expensive to work with a health plan, the payments are not that well. We need to pay the chefs way before we get the payment from them. The infrastructure setting everything up was insane. So long story short, today we're profitable, we're building and growing thanks to AI, but we went through some crazy roller coasters. I also raised funds, so the Growth Factory is one of our investors, along with others. I raised about $500,000, and so I have experience also fundraising, and you know, been with Rich in different fundraising situationships. And,
so I think you should talk about how you had your near-death, when I say near-death experience, your company's near-death experience, and how you used AI to turn that around. I think that's an interesting story.
Yeah, do you want me to get into this?
Yeah, well, we take turns.
Okay.
Don't worry, don't have the time.
Yeah, well, jumping in straight to So when I started Foodom, obviously, you know, we had a CTO, and we had 2 chefs working in the company. One of them is doing the customer support, another one is recruiting chefs. And we built a platform, and we grew with time. And when we added the health contract, it was a year and a half ago. The challenge was that it drained our cash. And I was back then presenting investors in the health space. So we pivoted a little bit from pure consumer to health. And the investors are even more conservative in the health space, especially with AI coming up. And they said, no, we want to see, first of all, get the contract. I got the contract. Okay, now get 10 customers. Now get 100 customers. I'm like, I need money to be able to grow this, to give them everything they need. So the bottom line is that we ran out of money. I kept on putting in for my investments, and then at some point it's like, we need to have a roof over our head, so I need to behave like a responsible adult, and not like my teenage kids that throw everything they have towards what they want. So I had to just stop that and let go of all of the team, and cut all of our expenses, and basically turn. And also on the health side, what I did, it's very hard to get a contract with a health plan. It took me almost 2 years to get a contract, and you don't let go of this so quickly. So I found an amazing partner, Community, that took over the contract, and then with AI, they had the money also to, first of all, take over the operation and add AI tools. AI is expensive. It's not something that, you know, if you don't have the money, you can't even afford that. So with that partnership with them, I basically shift all the expenses on the health side to them, and then we're getting paid a percentage of the revenue. So that, including me, which was very, very nice to get finally paid after many, many years of not getting paid. And then on the consumer side, I thought we're done. I was about to shut down the platform because that's it. It's like game over. We have the health. I figured it out. But for the consumer platform, what do we do now? It's built on WordPress. So the technology there is, I don't want to say outdated. It's an understatement, outdated. And then with AI, basically, my CTO, I tried to build by myself, and then my CTO said, no, let me. And now he's basically rebuilding the whole platform using Codex and Claude. No, Claude is expensive, Claude. So he's using the $200 subscription with Codex and rebuilding the whole platform. We're about a month and a half away from launching it, and we have live customers and chefs. So it's like, it's alive and kicking, it's profitable, and then we're going to be shifting everyone to the new platform. And what we did, we're doing it in phases, where as a startup founder, what's going to kill me tomorrow? So first of all, the platform, it's crap today. It's working, like I don't cook. I don't cook for 6 years, like seriously. So it's working, but it's not good. So first of all, replace the platform. And then the next bottleneck that we have will be the chefs. So we need to bring more chefs. Currently we have enough, but and we have a lot of word of mouth, so people just come and sign up. So the next big thing after the platform, we'll build AI agents. First of all, a workflow to recruit I used to have a person recruiting chefs and cranking a machine manually with a bunch of solutions that are stitched like with I don't know, Zapier, or so we used a bunch of different tools. And now with AI, we can rebuild the whole flow and then add an AI agent instead of the person that used to do that. So so that's the next thing. And then the third thing will be the marketing. And I'll talk to you. But once we have the platform like more robust, then we'll start working on growth, investing in growth. But that's in a very small nutshell, like the near-death experience. And I almost gave up, and it's not the time. When it's some time to die, we'll die, like, as people and the businesses. But it just wasn't. It's not the time.
By the way, respect.
Thank you.
All right, Nick, what's the favorite AI tool that you're using right now?
My favorite. So within my team, as all teams should have, everybody has their own function, their own kind of like specialty, etc., etc. I happen to be the front man for Sweet Fleet, so basically I run a lot of kind of like our sales, a lot of kind of like our forward-facing things, stuff like that. So Apollo. Some of you might have seen, I already gave a workshop on Apollo before. How many of you all are familiar with Apollo? Nobody? Couple folks? Okay, beautiful. So Apollo. Okay, guess not. All right, so Apollo basically
It's like Salesforce, right? It's a competitor of Salesforce.
It has some of the same capabilities, but basically what it's able to do is kind of like scrub and kind of like crawl through the internet to find different folks, their contact information, where they work, email, phone numbers, etc., etc. So basically using that to find your ideal client profile, or the clients that you're trying to like actually sell and use your products, which is going to be different than your audience, right? So use Apollo, let's say for Square Root Academy. Our ICP, or some of the things that we might insert, is like, okay, we want somebody in K through 12 education. We want them within X amount of miles within this region. We want them to have this many staff members. We want them to have this much annually, because they have to have enough money to pay us. So we make sure that we have all of those things. And then there's also signals that are baked into these things, right? So let's say that somebody looked up STEAM education within the last kind of like 3 weeks. It'll show me those individuals and kind of like let me know, hey, these are the people that you need to be talking to now. In addition to that, it also has kind of like built-in email nurturing. So basically just kind of like a sequence of emails. You guys may have gotten those annoying things in your email, right? So where it's like, oh yeah, hey, we noticed that da-da-da-da-da. Then you might get another email 3 days later, and then another one like maybe 5 days later after that. I promise ours aren't as annoying. But basically it has this feature. It's easier for you to kind of like reach out to your clients. It can automatically produce lead lists for you. So you can basically know who to contact, so you're not wasting your time. Because, you know, if your client and your ideal customer is everybody, your customer is nobody, right? You know? So basically making sure to have that defined. But before we even jump into kind of like some of these AI tools, I was talking to Tiffany back there actually, and we were talking about kind of like the human first approach, right? So I forget how the quote goes, but a sailor that doesn't know where their port is finds no winds favorable. So basically, if you do not know what you're doing, you can have as many AI tools as you want. You're not going to get anything done.
Absolutely.
So, and that's inclusive of kind of like, okay, before you actually use these tools, make sure that you define the intention. You know, where am I trying to go with this thing? And let's say that you want to make a workflow. Well, what do you want the workflow to do? Before you actually make the workflow, maybe spend some time thinking through the SOP. And not even just going into ChatGPT and saying, hey, make an SOP, but really from a human perspective, like, okay, let's assess my team's capacity. Let's also assess where I am mentally. Let's assess the state of the environment or the industry that I'm actually working in right now, right? Because all of those things are basically going to feed and inform your automation that you're making. So that's a little bit about my favorite tool.
All right, Scott, your turn.
Yeah, you could go a lot of ways with this, right? Just to piggyback on Apollo, and then I'll also extend it to other things. We're not sponsored by Apollo. Could be making a lot of money right now, right? Yeah, exactly. Better be posting this on LinkedIn and better be getting some sponsorship.
Hey, they need ambassadors.
Yeah.
I'll be quiet.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, because I was working for a startup as head of technology, where they raised venture capital. The basis of it ran on an Apollo engine for ICP detection, as well as lead prioritization, automated email outreach using a tool called instantly.ai, where it handles all the things that come with sending emails, cold emails specifically, to clients. There's a whole thing with regulations around that, right? Like you can't just have automations that send emails out to customers. People don't like spam. Who would have thought? And then creating like personalized sequences using things like Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, as like the engine that makes these very hyper-personalized emails. So
you're using instantly and like a large language model?
Yeah.
So are you using like Zapier to connect them, or is there like an API or something already?
So we were building a platform, so we had to do it all through the APIs.
Okay.
What I would probably do with, and this is what we're doing with one of my clients right now, is just use the Claude MCP servers because they do hookups, right, to all these services, and just orchestrate it through the chat. And just curious if you guys know of Claude. Do you guys use Claude?
Yeah. Well, Asia and I are dating now.
You're in a relationship.
It's still my side piece.
You should explain what an MCP is.
Yeah. Do you guys know what MCP is by any chance? No? Okay. Well, back in the day where computers had to talk to each other, they would do it through something called an API, which is basically, a similar language, right? This server can talk to this server. Now we have this thing called MCP, Model Context Protocol, that, it basically allows you to have a model talk to whatever, whether it's a data server, whether it's another third-party service like Apollo, instantly.ai, HubSpot, all these other applications and tools that you guys probably use on a day-to-day. And so that's a really powerful, I think, workflow that we have been adopting, where we just tell Claude, look through my contact list on my phone and add it to my HubSpot, right? Do the classification of all my clients for me based on maybe conversations that I've been having, so on and so forth. And that's just an example of like how we've been using Claude and these MCP servers to really streamline some, really mundane tasks that probably would have took maybe 4 hours to do manually. And we just had to do it like in 3 minutes. So yeah, that's an example of like some tools that I've been doing, as well as stuck in some workflows in there as well.
All right, so then I know you have some clients. Like what are some of the tools that, you mentioned Apollo, but is there another tool that is sort of key that you've been introducing to your clients?
Yeah, I think it really depends on, because there are definitely core functions of a business, right? I think going back to what you're saying, you have to define the problem that you're trying to solve, and really I think that's the more important bit of this, right? Are you trying to do something in marketing? Are you trying to do something creative? Are you trying to do something maybe more research? And as a consultant, we do a lot of market research for our clients. So one tool that I personally like to use is Perplexity for that. If you guys have played, and I'll also explain what Perplexity is, but if you guys have played around with any of these AI tools like ChatGPT, you have noticed that sometimes they do citations, right? Where does it pull from, and kind of does like a summary of what it has done. But sometimes it also just makes shit up, right? It doesn't do that all the time. Sometimes it pulls on the training data that the model was trained on and spits out that answer. Perplexity, the reason why I use it is because all of its answers are really rooted in citations. They're all rooted on some sort of website that's been pulled from, PDFs, whatnot. And that's typically how I do like very cursory research that is a little bit more important and requires a lot more fact checking. And that's, we built some flows for that for some of our clients.
And then, other than Apollo, what tools are you bringing to your clients?
A bunch. So one problem that we recently kind of like came across, particularly with our virtual assistant clients, is a lot of business owners almost don't know where to start or where to go once they've kind of like begun. It's kind of like, okay, we got the company, what now? Or, you know, what to do on a day-to-day basis, et cetera, et cetera. So speaking of workflows, what we've been doing is we've had them upload kind of like all of their information into Notion, all that fun stuff, like give us all your SOPs, give us your annual goals, give us all that jazz. And then what we'll do from there is we'll have Claude kind of like scrape through that information, and then also pairing that with Slack. So what it does, Notion has all the information. Claude scrapes through, finds like a plan. Okay, this is what we need to do this week, or this is what we need to do today. Then after that, that information then gets communicated into Slack, where it communicates with our virtual assistants what we need to do, along with whoever the client is. Hey, this is what we're working on this week. So that's what we do from kind of like a workflow perspective. And just kind of like keeping your business organized is a very underrated skill. I remember that, God, we went through so many iterations of our Google Drive, destroying and rebuilding and destroying and rebuilding, because nobody could freaking figure out how to navigate it. Versus like, you know, if we have everything in one space now, it's a lot cleaner, it's a lot more organized, a lot less decision-making fatigue, because you're not planning, replanning, and then recommunicating over and over and over again. So that's a workflow that we use. A tool that I've been kind of like recommending as well to kind of like just give folks just a little freebie, client or not. Are you all familiar with Blaze AI? Okay. Blaze is one of my favorite things because I'm not really a social media guy. I mean, I can do it, you know, I can do it. But what Blaze AI basically does is it automates all of your social medias. You know, it creates the content, it creates the content calendars, it posts on LinkedIn for you, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you may need. And then speaking of kind of like, you know, making sure that basically how AI finds information and all that, it like scrapes through the internet and all that other fun stuff. So it uses something called AEO. So that's going to be answer engine optimization, right? So the more that your stuff is out there, the more that the tool has, you know, the more places that they can kind of like scrape your information and all that other fun stuff. So blogs are really good for that. So if you get a blog, you can throw it on Medium, something like that. The AI tools will reference it, be it ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever. I was going somewhere with that. Medium, blog,
Blaze AI.
Blaze AI, Perplexity, scraping, all that fun stuff. You know, I think that's it. But but that's kind of like the new thing, right? You know, I think in like maybe the early 2000s, SEO was kind of like big, search engine optimization.
Oh, yeah.
So basically just kind of like making you rank higher in like Google search. Let's say it's still a thing.
It's done differently.
It's not so it's not in replacement of, it's in addition to.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to both the SEO and the AEO these days.
So I've actually heard, I've been using the term generative engine optimization. I also heard ask engine optimization. Which is are they just the same or?
You know, I'm not as familiar with generative engine optimization. I know of the term, but that's not really my lane, you know.
Okay.
Can you give a little background on that to those who don't
So,
with the terminology?
So like SEO, like you're all familiar with SEO. So now, like right now, I've been using like ChatGPT. Instead of going to Google, I've been using ChatGPT for some of the answers. So it's a way to write your content so that it gets picked up by the large language model. So I've heard two terms: ask engine optimization, or AEO, and I've also heard generative engine optimization. So when I write my blogs, or when I have my LLM write a blog, I actually will specify write it for both SEO and generative engine optimization. And so what I've seen as difference is that it'll add, you know how the headers will be more like questions.
Yes.
And then at the end of my blog, it'll actually have an FAQ. So it's more like So the question and answer format of the blog, it's more of a change. That's what I've seen in terms of the blog. And so, I've seen, I seen it make a little bit different. I mean, I'm monitoring traffic and I'm seeing traffic from other places I'm not sure. So I think it might be that, I'm not really sure. But that's where I think when I write, I'm doing content marketing, it's both now. You have the SEO and AEO or GEO.
Yeah. And you can use Lovable. Lovable is a pretty good tool to kind of let you see where you're ranking within these things. Both AEO, SEO. Give it your website, give it kind of a little bit of basic information. It'll produce a whole document.
Lovable does this? I thought it was building.
No, Lovable has some functionality to it. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
I think they have SEMrush integrated with
Yes.
Lovable right now.
Oh.
Yes.
So
I gotta check that out. And Reneta, so I guess.
Yeah, so for SEO, what you guys were just talking about, so what I did, I actually went to the different models and trained them directly on Foodum. So now I see actual high quality traffic, and I see actually orders that are placed that are generated through.
Say that again. What do you mean?
Like ChatGPT, for example, right? So I see when I go to Google Analytics, the source of the traffic. You have on the top the highest quality source with actual conversions to sales to orders. So ChatGPT is up there.
So what do you mean?
What I did, I went straight to ChatGPT, to Claude, Perplexity. I went to all the different engines and I trained them on Foodum, and I had a whole conversation and taught them what is Foodum, who are we good for. Not just, I didn't wait, for that to find it on our website, but I actually trained each one of them.
So you went to them and you created a custom GPT or a project?
No, I just trained, I just explained about Foodum and had the whole conversation with the bot, and I said, yes, train the model, it's not just for the company.
Interesting.
So you open it to the publicly so it can train, it's not just locked in with you. Okay.
So you create the AI, what your company does and so forth, and then you think others, pick that up, with somebody else. If I was to go to the website, to the internet and say, or to an AI, and be find me a chef
near me.
And that would
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah. So I don't know if it's because I trained it or because it reads all the information from our website.
Yeah.
But I said, I heard about, GEO and all of that. And I'm just going to the source. I'm going to train this beast.
That's pretty cool.
So are you just inputting stuff about Foodum and copy pasted? This is us and blah blah blah.
And whole conversation, yeah.
Yeah, just the way you would privately.
The
Train
person.
the model with that down.
Exactly. And what would you recommend? I actually started with asking, suggest to me chefs in this and this area, and I'm like, oh, have you heard about Foodum? Foodum has chefs in this and this, and then hey, would you recommend? And we had a whole conversation about this. It was really very, very educational for both of us.
All right, so that was a new thing I just picked up here, so I'm going to go back and try that.
Yeah,
You can
then
also customize it if you want.
yeah.
So,
why stop at one? Amplify, get 100 people to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Across different
Well,
IP
because I know
addresses.
the real data and information, and I can answer it correctly. And if I get 100 people, they
I'll create a bunch of chatbots to train.
agents that will be hallucinating, and then before you know it, they try to book strippers for them. I don't want that to happen.
Save that for your comedy routine.
We'll get to that in a second.
But your analytics should be able to tell when the LLM crawlers have come through your site.
Yeah.
So that's one way to track,
True.
how much, when they come in, how much they know about you.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so
I think you had a question there for a second.
Oh yeah, no, so it's gonna ask you, so when you think about if you have the actual model in your data stuff, so yourself, but you keep training it based on your data, so you have it yourself. What do you think about that? You're running a business,
Yeah.
so basically your business data, you can train the model. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. I'm plugging straight into the model and trying to check.
So you have custom model, for example.
Oh, the customers train?
No, custom model,
Custom
No,
model.
like,
Yeah. So we are going to be doing some custom, models for us, just not at the moment. Again, it costs money to do a lot of things. So we're since we are very frugal in the way we're spending our money and how we're building and growing. AI is expensive, and we have a lot of data that we're generating just from the customers and orders and their preferences. So So we're doing it like gradually. So after we finish building our platform, the next thing, we have a bunch of things that we're using AI for recommendations. So when customers come to the platform, they want to get custom recommendations based on their past experience, and all of that it's going to be on the platform. So it's not going to be like in ChatGPT, like an agent or something, or it will be on the platform. So there will be meal recommendations based on whatever customers want. We're also using AI to generate images. So I used to have like this light box, this black light box, and I would have my chef cook food and take pictures and then improve the quality and then upload. Now ChatGPT, it's like with the images now, I don't even try it. It looks much better even than when initially it wasn't like that. It's just recently with the latest update, the images improved dramatically. And also Gemini, Nano Banana, I think they have also, they were pretty good, but now ChatGPT, the images really, really good. And then we're also creating recipes. So it's interesting. I'm obviously using ChatGPT to create recipes, but still it's hallucinating. So I always run it by the chefs to make sure. Like the last thing we did like a week ago, sukiyaki, if you guys know, it's a very tasty Korean dish. And ChatGPT hallucinated a little bit. Like for 10 servings, it asked for only 1.5 cups of water. Chefs used 5. So obviously we're still like double checking and improving the recipes to make sure it's not. It is hallucinating. So just be aware of that. I use also AI for presentations. So Gamma AI, if you guys heard about that, super cool. I'm doing also paid speaking opportunities using that. So obviously I create all the content and what I want to talk about, but then it helps me put it together in a nice way and flow and images. And also another interesting thing, so other than Foodum, I also am writing a book, and like Rich was saying, I'm doing stand-up comedy now. All of you are welcome to follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to grow my audience. It's at my name. And what I learned is that AI doesn't have good sense of humor. So yeah, it's not. Humans, this is something this is ours.
So can't write your jokes then, huh?
It doesn't write jokes well, but it does help me create jokes, because I sometimes have spelling mistakes and I mispronounce things, as you heard in the last show last week. And it helps me just prove that I'm saying it correctly, so I won't sound completely stupid, just partially stupid. And it's really hard for immigrants, to. So I use it in that way of just, grammar and make sure. Sometimes it's nice when I make a mistake in the way I pronounce things. It actually could be a fun thing, but I just want to know when I'm doing it, so be aware most of the time. And also, I'm writing a book, and this is my first language is Hebrew. So chronologically, my first language is Russian, but because I moved to Israel when I was 3, then all my education, degrees and books and everything was in Hebrew. But now I'm writing in English, which is insane, because my vocabulary is much bigger in Hebrew than in English. But with ChatGPT, it's like being like a cripple, and suddenly it gives you strength, and I can do something in a language that I didn't grow up with. And it's actually, I feel like it makes me superhuman. And I am responsible with the content, and I'm coming up with the ideas, but it just helps me in places where I don't have enough words or I'm not saying it right. So it's I wouldn't be able to do that before it became like mature enough. The future is still ahead of us. Yeah, go ahead.
Man,
No, actually, we are now in our Q&A phase, so that's a good start.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So this question actually is for all of you, but it was kind of triggered by a couple of things that were said on the panel. You were explaining to me how you were using AI and different things. And one of the comments I caught was you said, well, of course, I give it the content. Be aware, a lot of people don't do that. They ask the AI tools to do the thing. And Nicholas, you used by quote in addition to, not in place of. And I know you were mentioning about the blog. So my question is, name one area related to your thought leadership, business operations, or client work where you think AI should not be implemented, and why?
Oh, that's easy. Relationship with customers, this AI or robots will not take the personal interaction.
I want you to get a little more specific, because a lot of people will have on social media where a bot responds when you send a message in a DM or your first communication, you get that automated email. So I would like you to be very specific in where that line exists.
Yeah, yes, of course. There are different lines of service, right? So, and I get it myself too, and I know to recognize when it's a bot. Now it's getting harder and harder to recognize it, but you see when it's an AI agent versus a real person. And there are some things that are basic and simple that AI can take care of just very, very basic in consumer. But then very quickly at some point, the relationship with the customer, it has to be through humans. So my goal, because we're B2C, and I can't have a lot of customers calling us, we'll go bankruptcy. So my goal is to have the product so good that no one has questions, which is where we're almost there on the consumer side. But on the health side, they still call and the health plan wants to talk to us. So I think it's different between B2B and B2C, absolutely. And I had one more thing to tell you about. Okay, I'll remember that later. It just flew through my head.
I gotcha. I think that I don't think there's any one kind of like silver bullet, as an answer to that question there. I think it really kind of like depends, right? Similar to what Reneta was saying, like client relationships and all that. I'm not going to have a bot reply to people that are giving me their hard-earned dollars. Folks that are believing in the product, believing in our service. I'm not going to use bots to communicate with them. They deserve my time. That's one thing. And me personally, like I enjoy the process of kind of like planning out my projects. You could sure as, ChatGPT, give me a 12-month roadmap to get this goal done and da-da-da-da-da. I could, but I much rather write it out. I'm old school in that sense, give me a good whiteboard session and let me just get busy on the plan, what it is that I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. I might have ChatGPT look at it a little bit later and say, okay, what might I be missing? But I feel like that human touch point and that human understanding of kind of like the environment and what it is that you're doing, you can't outsource that. You can't take that out of the actual business. You are, in a sense, the soul of the business. You can't kind of like create things without having that soul involved in the process, if that makes sense. I hope it made sense.
And I remembered the one thing I wanted to add. In customers. So as a personality, because I'm coming from a country where people are very direct and straight to the point, that make Americans cry. I make my kids cry, I make my teams cry. So I actually initially started, when you start a business, when I'm in tech and I'm a director and I have engineers, they're all like me, we're all robots, it's fine. But when I'm just kidding. But when you get to have your own business and you give customer support, initially I was a bit tough, and the person that worked for me, she said, no, you're not talking like this to customers. So when I didn't have her anymore with me, I actually used ChatGPT to be nice. So I write my message and then make it nice, and then it's just like so nice and lovely. So I actually learned from ChatGPT to be like, chill, you're in California, you're not in New York, all good. But it's always like I'm signing off everything. I'm just learning to be nice.
Nice. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think, creativity, human judgment, those are things that just hopefully cannot be automated. That'd be wild. Because,
Share the best practices.
right, because I've been thinking about, especially with, especially like if you are using it, like for me personally, I feed it like personal identifiable information sometimes by accident, right? I honestly have like a little bot that is like helping me train, and I feed in like my heart rate and all these other variables that would be considered PHI, right? So that is a boundary, right, that you technically shouldn't really do.
Yeah.
But like, I think the broader discussion here too is kind of like, how realistic is that for like us normies, right, who just want to use this to do this thing really fast, while also acknowledging that, you have to also set those boundaries, right, you really shouldn't be putting in confidential client information and be training these models on that, or your own business IP, right? That just shouldn't be on the cards at all. But I know that we're all doing it. I do it too. So I don't know if that really necessarily answers your question, but I think that's at least in the spirit of like a thing that we should be aware about in terms of like a boundary of what we should not cross.
I think my input on that is there has to be, I don't think you could completely automate stuff. Like I do a lot of, I feel like I'm a pretty good writer, but now with AI, I become more of an editor, and if I just have it create content and just copy and paste it there, that's bad. Because I'll go in there and it's maybe there's some hallucinations, but it's like tone, it's like awkwardness, so you still have to be in there because the content you send out is a reflection of your company. So.
Absolutely, yeah. In terms of content creation, like posts and blog posts, so I used to do that a lot to get more SEO and come up high in searches, and always like human has to be involved. Like I can't trust. And even though I'm an immigrant, English is not my first language, I would always like clean it up, and I don't trust it to create without supervision.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's another one. So we use Blaze sometimes to generate some of our blogs, but I like to write. I think that writing really kind of like cements your relationship with the knowledge. I think it makes you sharper. It makes you better at articulating your ideas, your concepts. It helps you to better establish yourself as an SME, subject matter expert, because it's like you can have beautiful blogs all day, but when the rubber meets the road and there's this face-to-face human interaction, how you sounding? Are you as knowledgeable? Are you knowledgeable at all? Or did you just outsource all of your thought leadership to this tool? Valid questions.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, Ivan?
So wanted to follow up on that privacy aspect because I think it's kind of important for small business and medium-sized business. So I'm thinking, say I'm the owner of an accounting firm and I want to use AI to help me check, for example, whether my employees are making mistakes or might have missed certain opportunities to save on taxes or whatnot. How would you kind of approach that issue, knowing that these are very sensitive information, and I'm not going to put it on ChatGPT or Claude to have them look at it. So how would you go about serving this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because if you guys have seen in Claude, there is a QuickBooks integration there, and I have no idea how that's harnessed. I have no idea what guardrails are kind of there to prevent that kind of data leakage. But back to the core piece, I mean, what we do here, at least in TorqueStack, is like more human in the loop kind of things. So for example, like in that particular example with a spreadsheet, right? We usually generate synthetic data that, kind of looks like it. And we tell Claude, create the Excel functions that, will do these certain calculations, ensures that everything's correct. And then we inject manually the correct data into there. So, it's really going back to this human judgment kind of perspective of, yeah, there are some things that you just shouldn't probably put on the table. And leave it to human judgment, but I know that also it's another point of friction, right? People want all these systems automated, but at the same time, should we? I guess that's a valid question.
Another question, it's not related to ethics, but it's more related to customer acquisition, because all of you have your companies, right? And so how are you using AI to get new customers? Because you have to do a business, because otherwise it's just an idea and it sits on the shelf, right? So what do you normally do to get more customers?
Is it B2B or B2C?
Could be either, depending on the type of business.
It's
right?
different, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys want to talk about B2B?
I'll run my mouth for a second. Apollo. Apollo has a lot of the kind of like built-in functionality to where you can define who your ideal client profile customer is and all that other fun stuff. You can use the email automations to kind of...
But you still need to, so that's the part where I heard you say that before, but you can't just blindly send an email to anybody. That's, some of it is even against the law because it's considered illegal.
And that's why it's
so you
only
have
part of the
to
strategy.
get it and have a consent and you need to go through those steps, right? So
Yeah, you build the whole flow, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. We have a client, they do kind of like sober living housing and all that other fun stuff, right? So we use Apollo to go through, we manually find, who are their ideal folks and all that other fun stuff. We send emails, that's one of the strategies. But in addition to that too, once again, you can't remove the human from this thing. So we'll have our virtual assistants make the calls. Hey, are you interested in da-da-da-da-da? Okay, you like this, you need this. Then we'll set a discovery call so they can actually talk to the client. So
you're actually having live people act as SDRs,
Yeah.
the virtual assistants. So it's basically Apollo's creating the list.
Yep.
And then you have, I assume they're like in the Philippines or something.
Yep.
Actually call
Yep.
people. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry,
That's very
didn't
good.
So they actually call these folks, and they're human beings. It's not an AI agent. You're going to actually hear from a person that's making these calls for you. That's one strategy, but in addition to that, you could also use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that kind of like has a lot of the ICP already that kind of like baked in. You can send direct messages to these folks, initiate the conversation. You might have seen some of those. So you might have seen in your inbox to where it's kind of like this random person's messaging you and it might say like premium or something like that next to it. So in there, yeah. One of those kind of things. So basically that's exactly what they're doing. They found you because you matched what they believe is the ideal customer for their product, their service, whatever, and then they reach out through LinkedIn. That's one thing. But I will say, AI and all this other fun stuff, this digital thing is great. But when we were building Square Academy, the reason why we were able to become successful so fast is because we were everywhere. We were tabling at events, we were hosting events, we were making sure that there were human touch points to where it's not like you don't just get the knowledge, but you feel the passion, you feel the impact of what it is we're doing because of things like this,
I want to add to what you were saying that when I just started, I recruited the first 10, 20 chefs through LinkedIn, and I didn't use the navigator. I actually used a service that I created a flow, and then it looked like organic, like not sponsored, but it's like someone invites you to connect, and then you accept it, and then you have a flow of emails or messages, and that's how I got the first even team members, like through LinkedIn. So that was good. That's the B2B part. But on B2C, what's really helpful for us from the very first day was SEO. So a lot of 5-star reviews on Google, and then of course the content on our website, and then of course trading the.
So still the traditional methods have been around for a while.
And also just training ChatGPT and Claude, and then word of mouth is big in B2C. And the chefs are bringing also customers. So there is it's called a supply-led growth. So if the chef is very happy and you really bring them value and you save them time, then now they find a customer and then bring them to the platform because it's valuable for them. So that was a huge, basically like almost like product-led growth as well. And then ads is like, of course social ads is traditional. I never had enough money to do that. Actually, my husband initially told me, "You have to do it. I'll give you budget, $500." Blew it off like in 5 minutes, 0 results. Like it's a different category in my business, but he wants to make a point. No problem. Like if you want $10,000 to buy me a diamond, that's better use of this than trying to get customers in this space. It's very, very, very different than the space he's in. But sometimes you have to try to learn. I'm not saying it's not good. I did have some posts, and now with the comedy, actually, I figured out there are new ways to so I'm generating content, I'm creating the content, and then through a professional account, you can post it, and then different people will see it, not my audience, but you see what picks up and gets like thousands of views, and then I can post it on my social media. So I'm just learning now new tools didn't start doing it yet with Foodum. It's interesting just to learn how comedians get followers on social media. I'm learning so much. It's a cross-pollination. But yeah, there are new tools that are coming up also on social media powered by AI.
Yeah. Mini chat and all that.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to follow up with your thing about privacy. So I did some work for the Department of DWR, Department of Water Resources for California, and so there is a whole AI protocol that they have this whole AI directive from the governor to the California Department of CDT, Department of Technology, and what California has, one is the rules are all slated for Microsoft. So like Microsoft Copilot's already in pretty much standard with the state. But what I thought was interesting is there's a policy of they were saying don't put any personal information in there. Well, how they have it set up is that with Copilot they have all their data partitioned off. So if you actually did put one is they can audit it. But if you did put I think in theory, if you put personal information into their version of Copilot within their network, it'll actually just keep that data within siloed in there. So I think that's how some of the enterprises are working. I don't know if that's what you're seeing.
Oh yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They put even if you charge GPT, they can set it up right behind the firewalls, and then the data doesn't leak out to the mass. That's what I was started worried about the use case that you brought up, where you think that you told the AI what you do, and then that created kind of something where people were able to find your business. Because then that means that if that's the actual case, then that means that everything that you guys are feeding the AI to, I can just go and say, hey, create this use case, this business idea. Because anyways, you guys already gave the AI all the data. Because I'm in sales on the enterprise. I used to I did it for Oracle, and now for a smaller company. And honestly, at the enterprise level, nobody has figured it out. It's really difficult. You can't just go and say, oh, I'm going to choose Claude, ChatGPT for my, data, against my data. We've been doing this 100 years. Nobody's doing that. It doesn't work. Even just no integration is extremely difficult. I only know one guy who did it. And it's extremely hard for the enterprise. So there's a kid who's doing the compliance, the ethics, and all this stuff. It's just integration.
Yeah, I wouldn't rely on the technology out there for AI right now because the AI term is very broad, but there's different areas when we start interacting with these things. If you haven't built it yourself, you do have to do some extensive research as to, the temporary cache that gets created so that you can quickly. That's an area where the data is stored. All the information that's keeping track of when you interact with it is stored somewhere. And the best thing that I would say for small businesses, because we only have so many resources, we're not the enterprise, is to, if you don't need full access to all of, let's say, database system, search for a way to only give it what it needs.
Yeah.
So that way you can protect your data right off the bat, right? As you're interacting with it, with the AI, PHI, for example, input validation, right? Maybe that's a policy that you can create with your personnel as you continue to investigate other options. We're going to use this AI agent, but do not process, PDFs that have all the information. Maybe there's like a step before it. So that way you're doing some things now so you can take advantage of the AI abilities, correct? But you're not completely disregarding the fact that you're giving it information that you probably shouldn't access. And then as you're, catching up with the technology, okay, maybe there's a way that we can implement something that is between you and the AI, which is it parses the data before it sends it to the backend. And so if it recognizes something that you shouldn't give it, he will create an alert and it will tell you this information is not needed for what you're trying to do. So there's multiple steps, obviously. So I was trying to also make another point there, but so input validation, policy creation, investigating the technology, how it works, where the information goes. And then also, if you're making a decision of, well, we're going to use AI because we really need the productivity, I would make an assessment of the value of what the data that would potentially be stored would cost you. So if my accounting database gets exposed, how does that translate into dollars that I would lose, correct? So if this, the loss, or if somebody comes to me with a ransom on this data that was stolen from you, correct? How much is that worth? And you can compare that to how much that technology is saving you, correct? Because that's like the give and take, right? It's gonna cost me so much less to run my business if I use AI. However, if this data is exposed and it's stolen, and correct, how many times per year do you expect that data to be accessed if it is accessed, right? Translate that into dollars somehow, and then you can make some assessments as to, am I going to lose my reputation with my clients if the data is right? Am I going to think about the give and take in terms of dollars, because at the end of the day, we're trying to make a profit, and that would be the way that I would tackle that.
Okay, thank you.
I think those are great points. What I think is what you're referring to is custom implementation, right? Like the chat bots don't have these features, right? So when I have a small business and I'm probably haven't built something to implement what you said. Because I work for a large company and we do that. We are putting a lot of things in place, checks in place. It's hard to keep up because, AI companies are moving such fast pace, it's so hard to keep up. But we keep on putting more checks in place, measure things, like you refer to expenses, the tokens, right, in AI terms, as well as all the compliance and the types of requirements. So I feel that's a great idea for any large company, or if you can afford and if you can get the time to keep up, right? But I feel for smaller companies who don't have a kind of capital to build that, it will still be a challenge. So there's still that, we train employees and make sure they follow the rules, because these things can still happen. Like use ChatGPT or Gemini, or you can accidentally read stuff and there won't be anything in place. But good points though. This is a great points for enterprise AI implementation.
And actually,
I'm a software developer. I'm an AI engineer as well. And what I was going to say, so I arrived pretty late. So we're launching our product within a week or so in production. So for all small business and mid-sized businesses, we actually think about their privacy. We have AI agent, including a similar dashboard that you can run your business on. And called CBS AI. I'll give you guys my company's landing page, and if you want to reach out, so we can talk person, and also we can switch.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something. So I'm also an advisor for a smaller, young startup. It's a startup that develops a safety ring to prevent child trafficking and for safety. So it started with child trafficking and goes all the way to women's safety and seniors that fall. So anyway, it's a very, very young startup. They raised so far $400,000, so not a lot of money. And then the founder asked me, hey, can you recommend a web developer? I need to build a landing page. And I'm like, dude, seriously? Lovable, come on. So I actually built a website with Lovable for a trip that I'm going to next month to Italy to climb the Dolomites with a bunch of girlfriends. So I did with Claude the whole spec and branding, and then I built a Lovable platform, including external and internal. So we have like a private, more safe space where we can update more like our safety, like our emergency contacts, and that everybody will know everybody, including a training. So I built a tool for training program, and just wanted to play with it. Like my friends didn't think that it will happen, that there will be like a branded website for a trip. But that's when you go with a founder on a trip. It's like one of those strengths, right?
This is a vacation?
Yeah, vacation. We're climbing the Alps. It's a vacation. Hardcore.
Very thorough.
But yeah, like I wanted to do this because I want to know how the tools work, and then I could tell this other founder, don't waste your time on. Don't get me wrong, there are still web developers and they're using the tools, but seriously, for a landing page, we're just collecting some, building a simple database with the Superbase. It's like you don't need any developer now, and she did it.
Yeah. So any other questions?
I was just going to comment on that, but Rich saw me earlier. I work for the city of Roseville, and we had 30 students here over the past 2 days for an event called Tech Teams. One of the things we encouraged them was to take things apart, right? The hardware. And so your example right there is perfect. It's along the same lines. You have something that you are looking forward to, and you're finding ways to learn how to use AI, which will then teach you or give you better information about how to implement it in your day-to-day job. So, it's just something that we teach kids to do. Why not us as adults? So.
Yeah, as my kids, once we went to, now my kids are a little bit older, but when they were younger and still at home, we went to a garage sale and we bought a bunch of electronic devices, different, like TV, CRV back then when they were still have it, and then a phone, but with the the ring, the
rotary.
Yeah, rotary. I
Oh my
wish it
God.
didn't. Yeah, and they took it apart, and you have to be careful because there's power going in. And like our daughter was the youngest one was 7, and the oldest one was 13. So they took everything apart, and it was so cool. I wish I saved the phone, but yeah. So that's back then the technology that we had. Now we have other toys to play with. So of course, like I want to know how to use it. Get your hands dirty. Thank God it's not blood. It's just code.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So please give a hand to our panel. So thank you. One of the things we do need is if you guys pick out your phones and scan this, this goes to a Google form, and we just need to have some feedback. The better the feedback we have, the more likely we'll be able to come back next month. And then I'll wait till all you guys are done there. And then everybody got it? So next month, we actually have a workshop creating video using AI tools. It's being done by, oh my God, I forgot his name.
Jesse Delgado.
Jesse, thank you, Jesse Delgado. So, and I had lunch with him, and so he played around with, and for me, I've actually tried using it. I use Sora is no longer available, and you burn through. If you guys have ever tried doing video with AI, you burn through your credits like really fast.
It's crazy.
But he's actually, he's actually gotten really good at it. He uses several tools, and so it's not just one tool; it's various tools. And he actually created a video that he submitted to like a film festival.
Wow.
It looked like a Pixar movie, so it's actually pretty cool. So he's going to discuss, his process. So that's next month on July 1st. So I guess that's it. And we probably have a lot of cold pizza left. It might be warmed up by now. I'm not sure. But if you feel free to take a box of pizza, please. There was 115 people signed up, so I was expecting this place to be full. So I brought a lot of pizza. So please take some pizza. And thanks for coming today. Thanks for being part of the community. And what did I say? It's actually great ideas start over that cold slice of pizza. So talk to each other, and that's where the magic happens. So thank you very much.
I think cold pizza is a feature. It's
It
actually
is.
great. It's very tasty.
It's a taste of startup.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Startup Folsom.